It was Valentine's Day. There was no love in my heart. I had been single for 2 years, and the holiday only served as a painful reminder of my loneliness. As I walked through the streets of my small town, I saw couples holding hands, exchanging flowers and chocolates, and smiling at each other with adoration. It made me sick. I decided to escape the nauseating sight and went to the local library, hoping to find some distraction in a good book. As I made my way through the aisles, a book caught my eye. The cover was black with a simple red heart in the center. The title proclaimed, "The Dark Side of Valentine's Day." Intrigued, I plucked the book from the shelf and sat down at a nearby table to start reading. The first page was filled with enormous warnings about the dangers of the holiday, and I couldn't help but roll my eyes. As I delved deeper into the book, the words seemed to come alive, leaping from the page and into my mind. The pages were filled with tales of love gone wrong, of twisted relationships and bloody sacrifices. I couldn't take my eyes away from the chilling accounts, and before I knew it, the sun had set, and the library was closing. Feeling unsettled, I returned the book and left the library. As I walked home, I couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was following me. I quickened my pace, but the footsteps behind me only seemed to get closer. Finally, I turned around to confront my stalker, but there was no one there. Shaken, I reached my apartment building and hurried inside. But as I entered my apartment, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. On my coffee table lay the same book that had just returned to the library. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of what was happening. Had someone followed me home, or was it just a coincidence? I brushed off the eerie feeling and tried to focus on something else. But as I sat down to watch TV, the power suddenly went out. I heard a loud creaking noise, and before I could react, a figure appeared in front of me. It was a woman with long, dark hair and bloodshot eyes. She was dressed in a tattered red dress, and her hands were covered in blood. My heart thundered in my chest as I realized who it was. It was my ex-girlfriend, who had died 2 years ago. She had always been possessive and controlling, and her death had been a relief for me. But now, she was back, and it seemed like she wasn't ready to let me go. A sharp scream escaped my lips as she lunged at me, her nails digging into my skin. I struggled to break free, but her grip was too strong. In a panic, I grabbed a nearby candle and swung it at her face. She let out a haunting screech and vanished before my eyes. Shaking and covered in scratches, I searched my apartment for any sign of her, but there was nowhere to be found. I knew I needed help, but who would believe me? I was just a lonely person who had just lost their mind on Valentine's Day. As I tried to calm down and process what had just happened, there was a knock on my door. I hesitated reluctantly before opening it. To my relief, it was my neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, with a worried expression on her face. "Are you okay, dear? I heard screams coming from your apartment," she asked, concern evident in her voice. I tried to compose myself as I explained what had happened. She listened attentively and then told me a story that turned my blood cold. According to Miss Jerkins, there was a tradition in our town where those who died on Valentine's Day would come back to seek revenge on those who had wronged them in life. I scoffed at the idea, thinking it was just an old wives' tale. But when she mentioned my ex-girlfriend's name and described her disappearance, I knew it was true. Mrs. Jenkins advised me to leave town immediately, but I couldn't bring myself to believe in such superstitions. But as the night went on, strange things continued to happen. I saw shadows moving in the corners of my eyes, heard whispering voices in silence, and felt a cold presence watching me. I couldn't deny it any longer. My ex-girlfriend's spirit was haunting me. Determined to put an end to this nightmare, I went back to the library the next day, hoping to find a way to banish her spirit. I searched through every book and finally come across a ritual that could potentially set her spirit free. I followed the instructions carefully and performed the ritual in my apartment that night. As I recited the incarnation, I felt a sudden gust of wind blow through my room. And then everything went still. The shadows disappeared, the whispers stopped, and the cold presence vanished. I knew that my ex-girlfriend's spirit had been set free. Relieved, I went to bed hoping to finally get a good night's sleep. But as I drifted off, I heard a faint whisper in my ear. "Happy Valentine's Day, I'll be seeing you next year." My eyes snapped open, and I realized that the nightmare was far from over. The curse of the Valentine's Day would continue to haunt me every year until I found true love. But after everything I had been through, I wasn't sure if that was even possible. So, every Valentine's Day, I stay inside, locked away from the outside world. I never know what twisted soul will come back to seek revenge on this cursed holiday. And as I sit alone in my apartment, I can't help but wonder, will I ever find true love? Or will I be forever tormented on Valentine's Day?